Hi everyone, I'm Shifra.
This is Eliyahu.
This is Eliyahu, my guest. We're here in Tzfat, and welcome to a new episode of the What is God podcast. And so today my guest is Eliyahu Pereira.
Yep.
We're here in Tzfat in Israel, and if you are familiar or if you aren't familiar, Tzfat is a very special, very spiritual, mystical city. It's the Kabbalistic city. It is alive with magic. I have had an incredibly synchronistic, magical day today of thinking I wanted to eat lunch and that I wanted to see my friend, and then walking outside and literally running into that friend for the first time in 13 years and being invited to her home for lunch. So this is the city that we're in, and Eliyahu lives here with his wife and his child and his family. He's raising his family here
Thank God.
in a Jewish way. And we were just chatting a little to get to know each other a little bit before turning on the camera, and he was telling me a little bit about your path of choosing this lifestyle, of really choosing it and coming into it in your adulthood, and having this journey in and out and back in and choosing it. And so I think that that's really fascinating, and hopefully we'll get to hear a little more about that. Do you want to introduce any more about yourself for
just
everyone?
to let everybody know a little bit about me, introduce myself. My name is Eliyahu Pereira, like Shifra said. I was born originally in Miami, lived all across the world, in the UK, in South Africa, in Brazil. Got around with my family, and I finally made it to this holy city at 17. This was where it all started for me in Israel, Tzfat.
We just realized we were here at the same time 13 years ago too, which
is pretty crazy. So
anyway.
At that time I was 17 years old. I came to Tzfat just to get away from America as far as possible. And when I came here, like you said, I went on a journey, and I was able to really see things for the first time in my own eyes, alone, without the influence of my parents or the surroundings that I was used to, in a brand new environment and world, which is Israel and Tzfat and Jerusalem, and I fell in love, and I decided to move here, and that's been 13 years now that I'm in the Holy Land. So
wow. Yeah, I thought it was so cool that we just realized that we were both here in 2010, because you were like, maybe I've met you before, and I don't know if we've met before. But I was having this thought earlier today. I actually posted a story about it so what happened earlier, I was walking by, and then I saw you inside of a restaurant, and we hadn't met in person yet. And so I'm walking by, and I'm like, oh, there's Eliyahu, and I just waved, and I was like, okay, see you later,
That's how it works here.
But and what I realized is the people who you're meant to know in life are right there.
Yep.
Like there's so many people, and it's even more obvious for me since I've been in Israel, but really it's just when your eyes are open. There's so many people who the day before someone's like, oh, you need to meet so-and-so. So I'm attuned to, I need to meet so-and-so. And then the next day I meet them in a different way.
That's how it goes.
And it's so cool. And so it's interesting, even you and I, we were circling each other 13 years ago, and then today I'm walking by where you are, and it just so happened that we were attuned to meeting each other, or it could have been that
you just walked by.
13 more years go by, and now we're going to get to have this incredible conversation.
Amazing.
Some more things just to give context that you were telling me. So first of all, you have your YouTube channel and Instagram where you share Torah from your perspective.
Not necessarily sometimes my perspective. I try my best to not make it my perspective.
Okay.
We have amazing sages for the past 3,000 years that I can lean on them and not worry at all.
Yeah.
And I try my best. I would say where I come in is maybe the delivery, or what is being decided to be given over. It's my platform. At the end of the day, I decide what I'm going to talk about, and I learn many different Torahs and from different rabbis, different paths, and I choose what to give over. And there's. Yeah, it's out there. I believe that in this generation, not everybody needs to be on social media, but for those that are willing to be, it definitely needs to be a positive message and giving over inspiration and hope for people and depth and meaning to life.
I think that's cool. And I think specifically also before you were saying how you're not a rabbi.
Correct.
And that's a cool perspective too, because you study and you learn deeply, but it is just a unique perspective of someone who's just simply passionate about it in his own life.
Yeah, I get this a lot. That people send me messages on Instagram, Rabbi this, and I'm like, I'm not a rabbi. I'm just like you. You can call me Eliyahu.
Yeah.
I'm just like you.
There's a humility in that.
I love Torah. It's the
Yeah.
truth, you know. It's and we have a mitzvah, like we have a mitzvah, which everybody hopefully does, to learn Torah, a commandment to learn Torah, and we also have a commandment technically to teach Torah.
Yeah.
Lilmod ulelamed, we say, to learn
Yeah.
and to teach.
Yeah.
And it's known, Rav Schneerson, the previous Lubavitch Rebbe, he said that if you know Aleph, you teach Aleph.
Yeah.
If you know the first letter of the alphabet, you have an obligation to give it over. So that's my...
So we're gonna have a lot to talk about. So we'll get into the premise of this podcast, which is the question, what and where is God, and what does it have to do with me, the universal me? So I'm very excited to see where you're gonna take us with this question.
All right, so since I found out, which I have to say is probably one of the fastest ways that I've ever ended up on a podcast, it was this right here, how it just all comes together in an amazing tzfat way, right? That you talk to someone for a minute online, and a few hours later they're in your city and you're doing a podcast, right? But so I thought about this a lot, but not too much, because I didn't want to do necessarily research. Because I wanted to kind of think of myself, right? So I'm just giving a little bit of an introduction. I thought about what are the words that we say when we pray as Jews? How do we address God? How do we talk about God? How do we talk about His abilities? How do we talk about how we interact with Him? And I thought about all those things. And I did speak to my rabbi, and I told him I'm going to be on.
Wow.
And I heard a story along the way in a magical spot way that adds to it all. So I just want to preface with saying, again, I'm not a rabbi. This is a genuine conversation between two Jews talking about what is God. And everything I'm saying is from my perspective and from what I'm going through. And hopefully it does help. And later on in the episode, I'd like to give some advice on how one could connect to God as well. But let's go. So what is God and where is God, right? That's the question?
What and where and what does it have to do with me?
What and where and what does it have to do
So that's the how we can connect to God part, the third part.
Okay. So, for my own words again, what is God? It's the creator of the world that created it with intention to do good and to give over good. And He cares about every single thing that happens in His creation, and He's renewing it at any given second. Any given moment, the creation is being recreated. Like we say in the Pasuk, "Mechadesh b'tuvo b'chol yom." Tamid ma'aser bereshit. He who renews constantly, every day, constantly, the works of creation. And He cares about every single one of us, down to the finest detail of our life. Like a father. And that is maybe like the beginning. What?
Yeah.
The where is. The where is also no. We're going to stay on the what for a little bit.
Yeah.
On the what
and we
for
can
a little
circle
bit.
back.
There's the what goes into this a little bit. The story is Rav Shlomo Karlibach went to go play for an audience. A rabbi that was known. He went to the hippies and he would play music and he would go around and love and peace and happiness and everything, right? So Rav Shlomo goes to this. He gets invited to a Buddhist monastery, ashram.
I know the story.
Yeah,
I
and
love
he gets
this story.
there, right? And at first there was a question: are you even allowed to go into this place as a rabbi, as a Jew? Are you allowed to go into these places of idol worship? In the end, Rav Shlomo, to cut the story short, he says, if I got the call, there's a sign that I'm meant to go.
Yeah.
I got the call. They want me specifically, and these people are not connected. They're not Jews, so why they want me? So he goes. And when he gets there, he starts to play music and everything, and they're talking like his way was. You play music and you talk, you play music and stories. And there was this one girl there that she was saying like, what do I need this? I don't need this. I don't need any of this. What is this? And he said, I don't believe in God. And he kept playing music, songs to God. And then he says, I don't believe in God. And every now and then he's shouting out to the crowd of hundreds of people, I don't believe in God.
Wow, I don't know the story.
And then someone came up to him and says to him, Rabbi, you're talking about God, you're teaching, you're singing about God. And it's a Jewish guy. And he had this arousal, and he says, what do you mean you don't believe in God? So he says in front of the whole crowd, this woman that's saying that she doesn't believe in God, I also don't believe in that God. It's not the God that I believe in, right? So that goes into the what as well. Oftentimes everybody really has a perception of what they've been told God is, and oftentimes it's very far from the truth, especially if it includes images and other things, right? But where is God? Another story. The Jews are leaving Egypt. They come to the Dead Sea, to the Red Sea, right? The Sea of Reeds, Yam Suf, and they're standing there, and they have Egyptians chasing them from the back, animals on one side, desert on the other side, and a sea in front of them, and they have to go forward, or they're going to die from behind, from the sides, or they're going to drown in front of you.
But there's an ocean.
But there's an ocean, right? So you have to go, but what are you going to do? So there's a bunch of different groups, and the rabbis explain what happened between all the different groups. Some wanted to run back, some wanted to give up, some wanted to fight, some wanted to commit suicide, someone didn't know what to do. Some just said, let's go, let's start walking. In the end of the day, they made it through the ocean. They were fine, untouched, and the Egyptians drowned in that were chasing after them. They were saved. Short story, right? The rabbis say what the lowest servant saw when they were going through the sea and that whole miracle was happening at the splitting of the sea. The prophet Yechezkel ben Buzi, Ezekiel, who saw all of the craziest visions that we have in the Torah, he didn't even see what the lowest level soul at that moment saw. And what did they say at a certain point? They say, Ze Eli ve'anvehu. This is my God, and I will beautify it. I will, right? But they said, this is my God. The rabbis say, if they said Ze, that means whenever you say this, you're excluding everything but the thing you're pointing at. So where did they point? The rabbis said they pointed to themselves. Each one pointed to himself, and Ze Eli ve'anvehu. That they got to such a level of vision and godly clarity that they knew that where is God? Not up there, not there, even though we use those terms. It's the deepest, the core of existence, right? The table doesn't exist without a spark of God in it. The water does not have minerals or any benefit at all if it doesn't have a spark of God in it. And even more so us, the choicest of creation, human beings. We don't exist without the godly spark inside of us. That is what gives us life. That is life.
Yeah.
What was the other one? What does it have to do with me? What does it have to do with me? Right? We're going to go deeper, guys, but just to answer the questions, right?
Yeah.
What does it have to do with me? Everything! Everything! Every single step of your day has to be in constant connection to God. In Judaism, we have laws of how to get through. They're called halacha. Halacha means to walk. We walk with God. From the second we wake up until how to go to sleep and which side of the body you should be sleeping on. Everything is laid out for you. Why? Because every single step of your being, every single moment of existence should be connected to the core and the source of creation that brings vitality and happiness and tranquility and all these good things. And that's why it matters to you. Because when you have that connection, right, then you walk through the street and the person you were thinking of is there and he actually invites you and now you have everything sorted out. Yeah. In this magical city, we get to live in this reality and it's a bit intense, right?
It's very magical here. I'll tell you another story in a minute,
But those are my three answers for that so far.
So thank you. It's so succinct. It's like, okay, we have 3 answers and now we can go deeper. I take notes while we're talking because so much comes into my mind that I want to talk about. But regarding the halakha and the laws and the specific things that are set out to do throughout the day, I was actually talking, I had a client session today from here. I get to, speak to my client who's in America. I have a coaching practice, and even she's not Jewish actually, but we were talking about, one of the things that I like to do in my work, because I work with Jewish people and not Jewish people, but because I come from such a lineage with such a strong foundation, a lot of the principles behind what we do can be tools for other people to apply to their own, not for them to become Jewish at all, because we don't really do that in Judaism, but to learn from what's the value behind these things? What's the mechanism? Why is this in place? And then to say, how can I apply that for me in a way that works for me with my lineage and with my
100%.
family? And so we were talking about that, and also just the fact that these different rituals and halakha, that they're not just, in Hebrew we have a word like stam, right? Which just means like whatever. They're not just whatever. They're actually mechanisms with deep intelligence. This is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, that are putting certain parameters in place for certain results in the physical world. So it's like, one of the simplest things that I just love is like, there's a blessing for everything. And there's a blessing even for after we use the bathroom, for example. And I love that, because what is that doing? First of all, it's doing things that we probably can't even really understand, but it's taking a moment to offer, first of all, gratitude and honoring, my physical body, and gratitude to God that my physical body is functioning properly. It's also just, how many times a day do I use the bathroom? It's throughout the day. I'm doing something where there's now a habit brought in to just connect, to just be grateful for a moment, to just remember God for a moment, to remember that I'm in a body and it's a gift for
100%.
a moment, throughout the day. And when you start to apply all these little things, the result is someone who's more aware, more intentional, more grateful. And that's just like one little example.
And as a result, happier and more calm and more easy to get through your day.
And as a result, attracting the things that they need to attract, having better relationships.
Exactly. Exactly. So this is exactly why it applies to us, right? And why I say that our day, like we like to think sometimes, Jews that keep Shabbat, we will look at Shabbat as like a 25-hour meditation. The truth is, our life is a 24/7 meditation. It is constantly. When we're sleeping, we believe we're going back up to the source. When we're awake, we should be connected to the source. But is specifically one of the most important parts of this is, right, we're not talking about separating yourself from reality and from society, right? We don't believe, like we mentioned earlier, Buddhist ashram in the mountains. Like even here, we're in a mountain city. Like you can hear the cars driving by and the traffic and everything, right? We're surrounded by life, because one of the things that we're taught in Judaism, that God says in the Midrash, is that God desired that He had a dwelling place in the lower realms. Meaning, God wants to connect to you in your day, in your everyday. You eat or you go to the bathroom. Say thank you. Like recognize that none of that is possible without Him, without God, right? So that is exactly the point, that Jews are meant to be constantly connected to God, in order, like you said, to take these principles and to be that light. Why are we called the light unto the nations? If we were all to live like this, that light radiates out constantly. Everybody who comes in contact with you, you're like a radioactive person, right? And just in a positive way, giving over God vibes,
Giving the God vibes. Yeah, I mean, that's the hope, right? Give the God vibes. So also today, it's on my mind, because I just had the session right before our podcast. I was speaking with my client, and she's saying how, she said, wow, now I feel so much more connected to God. And because of that, I can speak my truth, and I can take action, and I can make choices, because I know I'm connected, and because I know that if for some reason it doesn't work out the way I thought it should, that because I'm in prayer and because I'm connected, that it's not that I've failed, but it's that, no, God is actually in progress answering my prayer. Yeah. And it's just such a different perspective, and it takes practice also. 100%.
I just gave as an example of these videos that I put out, I like these short videos that I do. One that I spoke about last week's parasha, Shlach, like the parasha of the Meraglim, of the spies. I said that they were called Nisi'im, they were called leaders, princes, ministers, whatever, but in Hebrew the word is Nasi. Nasi has the letters Yesh and Ayin, meaning have, is, and is not. That is and is not is what makes up the word for leader or prince or minister in Hebrew. Okay, why? Because obviously if you want a leader, you want someone that has some kind of stature, that they have put in the work to be that leader. On the other side, you don't want them to be about them. Right. They realize that they are nothing without God. So like you spoke right about this client, how she's, now that she has the connection reconnected, her bandwidth is working, the Wi-Fi is on, the hotspot is good, right? Now she has the confidence to go out. Why? Because when I realize it's not about me, meaning the successes and the failures, I can't puff up my chest because I was super successful, and I can't beat myself up if I failed. Everything, you're just a messenger for God. And when you're able to do that, then you have the confidence to step out and to be the best messenger that you can be, because you know the outcome is not dependent on you.
Right.
It's all in God's hand.
I think there's like two things that happen at the same time. One is that we should walk around with our eyes open and aware, because everything is a mirror, everything is a message, everything is magic and an opportunity. And then at the same time, sometimes we don't need to know, and we don't need to make meaning of it. Like, for example, I'll tell a little story of another cool thing that happened today, because this really is a magical
You see why you guys should come to Tzfat? Look at her, she's been here for a few hours, she has infinite stories already.
I do. Today was, also Jerusalem's magical, and Tzfat is so magical in a just a special way. And I used to live here, and it was very special. And so the short of it is that I walked this little girl home today. And so I had this whole day and this whole experience, and I could be like thinking about, why is this happening like this, and what does it all mean? And like sometimes it's just so that you can walk a little girl home, and it can be simple. But on the other hand, it was very cool, because I was sitting there overlooking the view, and just all of these just emotion of being here for the first time in 13 years, and having lived here before, and who I was then, and the detour, well, I say detour because I was supposed to come right back, and then it took me 13 years. But the path, the beautiful life that happened in between those 13 years, and then now I'm back, and just really reflecting and connecting to that 13-year ago version of myself. And in some ways, I do this like calling of the past selves home, and just like regathering any past parts and doing this integration work. And I was thinking about her, this version of me, and just connecting and feeling really sweet, and had this sense of connecting to my younger self, not exactly child self, but younger self, and this sense of like coming home to the land of Israel also, but also home into my heart in this integration. And I had this whole moment, and I was just crying with gratitude, and then I get up, and before I'm done walking down the block, this little girl comes up to me and is like, basically, "Excuse me, can you walk me home?"
The little girl. She materialized.
And I'm like,
it's probably Eliyahu.
It probably was, and just like this, and then we're walking on the path, and I drop her home, and then I'm walking back up the path, and I realize that for some reason on this dirt path, there's like shards of mirrors. There's just pieces of mirror like on the ground. And I'm just like, okay,
The reflection.
Yeah, it was very magical.
Echad is Gematria 13. 1 in Hebrew is the numerical value of 13. So the 13 years that you were in between here, and now you're back, and you're connecting back to what was, you're making it all one.
I didn't know that.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Very cool. Oh my gosh.
And it's also the Gematria of love. So that the process of making it one has to be done out of love. And appreciation for that girl, and that girl appreciating this one.
Wow, I really feel that. I feel that.
That's what came in now.
Yeah, cool. I did not know that. Can you actually, just for listeners, explain a little bit like what is gematria?
So basically, every single Hebrew letter has a numerical value, which is unique in Hebrew, right? That you can look at a letter, and for example, the first letter is 1. Aleph equals 1, and then it goes up to 10, and then from 10 it becomes tens for the next few letters until you get to the hundreds, and then you have up to 1,000 with the end letters, right? So by way of every letter having a numerical value, then you can oftentimes make connections between two face value not connected parts of the Torah, or even between people. You could check their names, and you can see different things that could hint to different connections there. And it is an amazing way that they call it like the butterflies, the decorations for wisdom.
Wow.
Because it adds, it's not like so serious, but it can be amazing and like super eye-opening. For example, just to give over one, the rabbis say, Nichnas yain yatsa sod. When wine goes in, the secrets come out. We know this. You don't have to be Jewish to know this. If a person drinks, they start to talk a little bit more, right? But there is much more depth to what the rabbi said. Yain, wine, is the gematria, the numerical value of 70, and sod, which is secret, is the numerical value of 70 with different letters, but they each add up. Each word adds up to 70. So when 70 goes in, 70 comes out. One is wine, and the other is the secret. So this is just an example of what gematria is.
That's really
But I personally love gematria, and I use it all the time to try to look deeper and find more in the letters.
I think it's really cool, but I haven't gotten so into it.
You have to know the alphabet and just know that the correlation between the numbers. Once you do that, everything opens up for you.
Well, I feel like, what's the movie where he's like writing on the chalkboard and he's kind of crazy and he's
Rain
like
Man?
drawing,
Rain
I don't
Man?
know, there's probably a couple movies
Yeah.
and he's like drawing connections, and I feel like it starts to be like that, where you start to just see like everything, like a column and a water bottle and a desk,
100%.
and they're all actually made up of numbers.
According to Kabbalah, we believe that everything in the world, the code, just like in a website, right? We're looking at a phone, but behind the screen is, in the back end is a bunch of code, right? So too, in Kabbalah, we believe that the whole entire world, everything we experience, is made up of letters, Hebrew letters. God's speech is letters brought into this world that manifest higher realities.
Yeah, it's made up of letters, and if the letters are numbers, then there really is a code.
100%.
That's wild. But I do feel that way, and I talk a lot about the power of our speech and the power of what we speak into being, and the importance of actually being really intentional with how we use our words.
100%. It's a big emphasis that we have. And it's extremely important. Extremely important.
And there's a segment of the coaching world that focuses on that. Certainly not the whole coaching world, but there's a little slice of it, and it's just very cool because it's actually a very fundamentally Jewish principle.
Positive speech. We have to be aware of it. We have to be aware of it.
So okay, I have a couple things that I think would be interesting to talk about, but I'm also just, if you care to share just a little bit of your own life, like how, like your own relationship to God, because it sounds like it's been very interesting where, you were saying like your parents became more religious, and then you were in the Israeli army, and now you're here in Sfads.
All right, so yes, I would say the first time introduced to the concept of God, I grew up in a Jewish house, so we had this connection, we had beliefs in God, but for me it was kind of that Western picture that we get of some being in the sky with a beard, like kind of, as Jewish as I was, you're growing up in a society that doesn't have that reality, you're getting taught certain things, Greek mythology and different things that, kind of
influenced
me as a child. As I got older and was blessed to get more into our tradition, the Jewish tradition, which taught the world of oneness, right?
Because in our tradition, God doesn't have a face.
Exactly,
right.
None of that. No form, no image, no nothing. And we don't even say that there's only, if you really pay attention to the Hebrew, we don't say there's one God. We say God is one.
God is one.
Right? So
that in and of itself is mind-blowing, because I feel like I just want to kind of put that in bold for a second, because even so many people don't know that about Judaism, even Jewish people.
Monotheism.
So maybe you can just say that one more time and then keep going.
Yeah, definitely. It's basically, as we're taught, Judaism is one of the monotheistic religions, right? Monotheism means that the belief in one God and not others.
Right.
But in Judaism, we don't really, when you go into the scripture and you go into the Torah and you go into the teachings, it's not about, there's other gods.
It's not like, we choose this one.
Yeah, we chose it. There is an expression, but the word Elohim, right? Elohim Acherim, you could say, right?
Yeah.
The word Elohim, which is one of the names of God, it is in a sense, it could be a holy name, right? And why was I allowed to say it now? Because I'm saying it in the form of being powers, multiple of powers. So there is in the world idol worship, meaning people that give power to other physical things, the creations that are not the creator, right? But the creator, if he is infinite, and it would be impossible for there to be any place that he did not exist. Therefore, God is one. The whole entire everything we're experiencing is one, not just a God that is one, some being over there. I hope that clears it up a little.
That's great. I was a little tangent, but I wanted to expand. So
I was on my journey, and actually I had a few, we all have our miracle stories, but we spoke about this a little bit earlier. Sorry guys, we are in Israel, so there's a
little car noise in the background. Last time we had dogs, it's okay.
But we all have our stories of where God reveals himself to us throughout our life. We just have to have our eyes open, like you said earlier, right? One of the expressions of connection to God in Judaism is Irat Shamayim, which in English is always translated negatively and wrongly as fear of God. Right. But really, Ira is rooted in this Hebrew root of seeing, Re'iyah, to see, is consciousness of God. Right? The baby that touches the fire or touches something that's not hot doesn't see it. He won't do it again when he has the consciousness of that is the hot thing. So if you have godly consciousness, you have God in front of you at all times, you would never do anything to go against what he willed into the world. That's what fear of God really is in Hebrew, Irat Shamayim, where you see God. So we all have these experiences where we see God.
Okay, and we're back from a short interruption, but please continue.
Perfect. So where were we? Then we all have our little experiences of God throughout life, and when I got here to Israel, then I was able to, obviously, like you've explained a few times in this podcast, right? The energy in Sfat is super intense, right? So in Israel, that's in general. In Israel, compared to the rest of the world, you're in a much higher frequency, and you experience godliness so much more.
Yeah.
And being here and experiencing that, not from a place of religion. I was able, everything I experienced in America was Jews are either religious or they're not. Now I was experiencing God exists, Jews are real, Israel's real, Israel's real, and all of these things actually matter. How much do you want to tap in? And one thing that stuck with me from being a child was that Torah is true. Like the Torah has been proven. Like you have to completely just want to throw it out to not give into it, right? The Torah is true and it's real, and I've experienced not all sides of it, but I've experienced things that are directly connected in teachings of Torah. That it was clear to me that I was experiencing something that was brought out from the Torah. So the more I started to experience those things here in the land of Israel, then I got more aware of it, and I started to desire it more, and I realized that is the proper way, again for me at least. I believe that it's for every Jew and for the whole entire world to follow the rest of the things that are applicable to that, but that we should be living according to our tradition, not because it's a tradition. Traditions mean if that was then and we have this tradition of doing it. No. Meaning our tradition, meaning our culture, our way of life, our Torah, the way that Hashem instructed us to live out our lives. It's so beautiful and it's so rich and it's so amazing that why would I not live according to that?
What did it do for you? Because there were times where you chose this as your lifestyle. Yeah. What did you gain from it?
So besides, there's two ways you can answer this, but one of the ways that's coming up now is mikira davar miyipucho. You recognize something from the opposite of it. You might not be able to recognize how precious something maybe is itself until you experience the opposite of it, and then you're like, oh, now I know what that was. So going to clubs and partying and chasing all vanity in this world, at a certain point, I didn't get anything out of it, and I did it, and I was in this life, and Tel Aviv and parties and everything. It's this is not it. It can't be it. To my fortune, I had experiences with going to synagogue and with praying and with learning Torah. So for me, I always knew that was purity. That felt good, even if you feel like it or not. If you go to a shir and if you go to a Torah class and you sit through it, you're gonna leave. You might leave with homework, but you're gonna leave, fulfilled. You're gonna leave feeling better, right, or feeling more connected. And when you go after this world constantly, you fall into this world, which is a world, the lowest world that was created, the lowest level of creation, the world that is majority bad with a little bit good, right? And when you're getting down to that place, then your life also starts to resemble that reality. But when you're able to connect back to the highest of not worlds, of the source, the creator, the God, when you're able to connect to that, then you're here in this dark place doing that. Now your life is one big ball of energy and light. So I think the recognition of, I was blessed to live in the US, in the UK, in South America, South Africa. I've seen different cultures. There's times where my family had more money, there's times where my family had less money. There's times where my family was religious, and there's times where they're not. So for me, from a young age, I was blessed to have this kind of view on life.
Many experiences.
I've had all the experiences. What is the best? When I had to have that discussion with myself, obviously it takes time, but I knew the Torah was the ultimate. Even if I have to fight myself to get to it, it's the path that I should be on. And it's a journey. It's not about,
Yeah, and it's a blessing to have clarity, that you have the clarity. And I can hear the simcha and like the joy in your voice. And just another spot thing, like I'm just walking along and it's sunset time, and there's the group of young guys walking, and they're just like, literally this one guy was like with his hands like this, just singing just joy in the street.
It's proven scientifically, right, that people that have faith, no matter what religion, people that believe that there is a power and a being that's above them, that created this world, that is beyond them, they have healthier lives. It's proven. I'm not talking about now diet and things like that. I'm saying when it comes to anxiety, when it comes to depression, if you believe that there's a reason for everything you're going through, that takes a lot of weight off your shoulder. But if you believe that all of your success and all of your failures are on your shoulder, and it's all about you, whether I have to do everything right, I have to show up on time, and I have to make sure I have this, and I prepared, and if not, it's going to be a big failure. And then it's still going to be a failure, especially if you do all of that, because you're not going to be happy and you're not going to be really connected. Right? You're going to be stressed. So the successes and the failures, it's not about us. We are commanded to do our effort.
Right.
The deepest you go in the Kabbalah, the more you go and learn, you really realize that the effort, you're commanded to do it because of the situation you're in, meaning you're in this world. But really your effort doesn't even do anything. God's the only doer that ever does. He's the only doer, He's the true doer, He's the only one that ever did anything and will ever do anything.
The paradox.
Right? Exactly, which is the majority of our religion. Right?
It's also paradoxical.
But that's the truth. That's the thing. We are godly beings in a world that He created that is the opposite of that realization. And what is the goal? To fight and to prove how much you really want the truth versus the matrix that He created, right? And if you want to be involved and invested into the matrix, then your life is going to have reflect that. And if your life is of some virtual world, right? We're into virtual reality.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, this is getting very virtual reality.
The world is the actual virtual reality. All of these technologies are based off what this world actually is.
I think that you're a soul in a body. This is your avatar.
Exactly. 100. It is. What are we? This is what we are.
Shifra is my player,
Exactly. And you're in this role right now, right? So now, being conscious of that and breaking out of it to tap into the source, because God presented you the ability of free choice to choose to connect to Him or not. That is literally our whole entire Torah. Breaking out of this matrix, tapping into connecting to God. This is the path that we're on, right? Everybody that's listening to this was His intention. This was God's intention. How do I know that? It happens to be I'm a Jew and He gave us the Torah. And we believe that the Torah is the will of God being revealed. And there is clear that the number one test is, do you pick this world for what you see with your eyes, or do you look deeper and do you seek out the Creator? And this is the journey I'm on. I don't know.
And that's when you look at life and you say, do you see the, just a person, or do you see the soul that's coming through? Do you see, the creation, or do you see that it's a costume on something deeper? And you start, because people often will come to me and talk and say, I want to feel more connected. So many people feel so disconnected. And it can be as simple, and this is where you said, we can say, how can people connect? You wanted to talk about that a little, so it's a good leeway into that. But it can be as simple as just starting to pay attention and to choose and to say, I want to be connected and I want to look for meaning and I want to look deeper.
For sure, that's the first start.
Like
the first start. Like they say, what do they say about addicts? If they don't know they're addicted, they don't know they have a problem, there's no chance you're going to get them to stop, right? It's the first thing it's the first recognition. We're all sick in this world, right? We're all sick in this world.
Well, I would say we're disconnected,
but we're seeking healing. We're all seeking that vitality that we see in this world. It's not so much like previous generations. There is immense lack in a lot of, we see it, we feel it, we talk. Yeah, disconnect, like you said, right? Disconnect is a good word. Disconnect. So there are ways that you can reconnect, right? Reboot. If your internet is not doing well, right? Or if your phone dies, you charge it up. How much do you charge yourself up? You eat food all the time, but how much do you ingest spirituality? How much do you feed your soul, which is who you really are, right? So these are some things that are important to consider. Right? One is contemplating, whether you want to call it meditation, mindfulness, or contemplation, whatever it is, but think about the greatness of God. Think about how He created a world for you to come here, to have a relationship with you. He cares about everything. He sends you life, healing, money, relationships, the people to help you along the way. Everything is coming by way of God. So just contemplating that already will bring a lot to a person. You can contemplate specifically on the love of God in this world and how He reveals Himself in a loving way. You can contemplate on how a more stricter, natural, limited border sense, and all the amazing creations that are in the nature. There's different ways you can go about this meditation. There's also what's called itbodedut, to talk to God, to seclude yourself, to try to separate yourself from the noise of the streets and of the moving people, and to find a place, preferably a forest, somewhere that people don't go to often, and to literally talk to God with your own words from the bottom of your heart. God, today I had a hard day. You sent me that person, he really annoyed me. I'm going to be real with you. I didn't want to get annoyed at him, but I did. I don't want to act like that. Help me, please. I know it's not the right way. I know it's not what you want. Right? Or you can say, I don't feel like talking to you. You can do anything. You can show up to the meeting and not even have words. But the more you invest to creating that relationship, in the end of the day, we want a relationship with God. We don't have a book of 613 commandments. We have a book of 613 ways to connect to God. Right? Mitzvah in Aramaic is tzavta, which is a team, a squad, a connection, a connecting point. So mitzvah, yes, it can be, and it is, on the face value, a commandment from God. Do this, don't do this. But deeper, when you look at that exact same word, is rooted in the word for connection. So we're given these ways to connect to God throughout our day. One is contemplation, one is talking to Him. You can call it prayer, but it's beyond prayer. It's connection back to the source and getting everything off your chest to the creator of everything. So you're not crying to a person, you're not seeking out some kind of human solution. You're going to the source. You're hitting everything back at the source. And then obviously there's learning from proper kosher sources that are rooted in the tradition of Judaism that has never really changed.
If you're Jewish.
If you're Jewish, and
if you're not. Because there's also people who aren't on this.
Correct. But then I have to say my truth.
Yeah.
There's one God, like we spoke about, and that God is one.
Right.
Right? So the Torah does lay out the world plan. If it's so divine, it can't be that it left out 8 billion people. Right? We're only 0.2%. We're, if so, 15 million people in the world. It can't be that the book that comes to instruct us of how to bring the world to godliness excludes all those people. So I would say try to seek out kosher sources, Torah-rooted sources, let's say, in order to strengthen
what you're
that.
saying.
You get me?
Yeah.
And because, again, we want to go to the source, not any idol, not anything
Right.
else. Anything from this world is already not the source.
Right.
But the source can be found throughout anything and any way. It's just a matter of what is our goal and what are we actually trying to connect to, an image or to the source, to the creator.
Well, and it is interesting too that even when things get translated and retranslated, it changes. Like,
Correct.
because what you're saying, the Hebrew letters actually carry code
Exactly.
in them, and so it's just a different
Exactly.
thing. So we have meditation or contemplation, itbodedut, which you described, and
It's
then
a conversation with God. Yeah.
and learning from kosher sources. Those are the three things that you just
And
shared.
then most important is loving the people around you. You can't say that you love the Father if you don't love his children. If you're rude to him, disrespectful, and you fight with his children, how could you turn to the Father and say, I love you with all my heart? If you love something with all your heart, you anything that's related to it, even the annoying things, right, become endearment on you, right? We all have those friends that after 10 years of being friends, the thing that annoyed us the most about them is what we love about them the most, right?
Yeah.
Same thing, like, this is how we have to see our friends, because if we are all souls of God, sparks of God that came down to this world, then what I'm interacting with is the spark of God. How could I ever hate a person? How could I ever, and even if you don't like what they're doing, you can hate a person's actions. That is rooted in Torah. You despise a person's actions, but them, at their core, you have to love. You have to love.
I
A few
appreciate the
tips.
distinction. Okay, those are great. Thank you. So I think that's a good place to wrap up. Yeah, and so thank you, and I'll just wrap up for people too. I want to remind people, if they want to find you on Instagram or YouTube, or can you share just how people can find you?
Yeah, definitely. YouTube, I would love if you could go to YouTube, and there's over 200 videos there for you to go through. From some of them are a little bit more time bound, but a lot of them are very general. Eliyahu Pereira, ELIYAHU PEREIRA. Right? If you search that, you'll find me online, and I'm on Instagram as well. And Instagram and YouTube are the main platforms.
Awesome. Yeah, this is just so cool how this all came together. So yeah, thank you guys for watching or for listening. And I'm Shifra Bloom. This is the What is God podcast, and you can find the What is God podcast wherever you found this, or on Spotify and on Apple, and also on YouTube. You can find me, Shifra Bloom, and I post the videos, which is fun because you can actually see us talking. And then I'm also on Instagram at Shifra Bloom. So thank you, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye guys, thank you for listening.